Chelsea Jensen here. Today we are going to make cook up our Greek chicken, make some herbed rice, some oregano roasted sweet potatoes, and or tomato and feta salad. So kind of like a Mediterranean style dinner. We're gonna start out, I'm using some cilantro lime rice. I'm gonna cut up some fresh parsley and add this in later. But this will be the base for our rice, our herbed rice. So I put my bag of cilantro on rice. You could use just plain white rice, but I think the cilantro has a very nice flavor to it. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of garlic salt. Give it a stir. And we're gonna add just a little bit of olive oil. And once it comes to a boil, which it is, perfect. I'm gonna stir it one more time. And then I'm going to reduce my heat down to low. I'm gonna put a lid on. So just your basic rice cooking there. Now I'm gonna chop up my sweet potatoes. I'm gonna do a quick knife peel with them, just to get the outside up, because I don't know if anybody actually does eat the outside of a sweet potato, but I do not find them good, not like a regular potato. So I peel mine off. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just cut these up into small cubes, toss with olive oil, garlic salt, and a little bit of dry oregano. They're very simple, but delicious. This is one of my favorite ways to eat sweet potatoes. And I'm gonna throw them in. I have my air fryer setting on my oven, and I'm just gonna have them in there for about 15-20 minutes until they're cooked up. Perfect. So I'm going to slice these guys up into some manageable pieces. I'm gonna first quarter them the long way, and then I'm going to cut each one into thirds and then chop it down. I want them to be kind of smaller because I want them to be able to cook up fairly quickly, because my plan is hopefully to have this dinner ready in under 30 minutes. It's always my goal on weeknights if I can have most dinners ready between 30 and 45 minutes. We're pretty busy here and we've got a lot of sports. So I've got to pick up my older son from basketball at 9:15. So I want to make sure I have everybody else fed before I have to leave for them. So a quick chop up of these guys. And this is just a really simple way to do roasted sweet potatoes that are just a little bit different than the norm. Most people just kind of cook them in the whole, and then they'll add either butter or brown sugar or whatnot to them. I'm a savory girl. I like to have my vegetables to be more savory. So I just toss it with some olive oil, oregano, and garlic salt. Be delicious. So I'm gonna put them all on my pan. And then I'm gonna use olive oil. It's probably going to be about a tablespoon or so, maybe a little more. A really good dash of garlic salt. I would say maybe a teaspoon. And then oregano, dried oregano. You could use fresh if you have it. And probably about a teaspoon of that as well. And then we'll just give it a quick toss with our fingers. You want to make sure you get all of your pieces of sweet potato coated in the oregano, oil, and garlic salt. And once you have got them tossed, you want to spread them out so none of them are stacked, just like this. And now I'm going to pop these in the oven on my air fryer setting, which I have set to 425. You could also put them, if you don't have an air fryer setting on your oven, like convection roast at 425 as well. It's about the exact same. So I'm just gonna pop them and let them roast up. And I feel like the oregano on them pairs really well with my Greek theme meal, because I'm using a lot of oregano. I've used oregano in the chicken and it just blends well together. Okay, well, let's start prepping our next part. We're gonna cut up some vegetables that we will saute to kind of go on our Greek chicken pockets that we're gonna make. So I'm cutting up 1 yellow onion. I feel like for sauteing, yellow onions, Valdalia onions, or sweet onions are the best. White onions are typically better for salsas, and red onions are better for on burgers or relish or eating raw or pickling. Okay, I'm also going to slice them the long way because we're going to do it on a little pocket, so you're going to want like strings of onions and peppers. So I've got my onions, and then I'm going to just chop up a handful of sweet peppers. You could use a big bell pepper if you had it, but this is what we had on hand. So for me, the quick way, I'm just going to cut in half, and then I'll slice quickly like this. So I'm having long strips, kind of a large julienne style, if you want to be technical. And the nice thing about sweet peppers is they don't have a lot of seeds in them, so you don't have to do a lot of the de-seeding that you have to do with a bell pepper. And I think they have just a more mild and sweeter flavor. Green peppers, I rarely use green peppers in my cooking because I feel like they have a very bitter taste. I always opt for the red or the yellow or the orange. I think they have a better flavor. Of course, the green peppers are the cheapest. And I'll slice these through. Get my yellow one. My middle daughter, Evie, she absolutely loves these peppers. She'll eat them raw. I typically place 2 or 3 of them in her lunch every day, which is always, she's my only one who truly likes them raw. Everyone else, they'll tolerate them, but she loves them. Okay, so I've got my peppers and my onions cut up. We're going to prep our oil for our chicken and for our sauteing our vegetables. So I'm going to use over here, this is my scan pan. It's like a really thin cast iron. And then right here is Hexclad, which is it's like a non-stick pan, but it doesn't use Teflon. And we're going to turn on our skillets up. I'm turning this one up to high. I'm going to turn this one up to medium high. And we're gonna just toss these guys in here. And then once my oil over here gets heated up, I will...
What are you cooking?
We are doing a Greek chicken. We made our marinade earlier today at lunch. And that was with cream fraiche, which is the same as like sour cream or yogurt, oregano, garlic salt, lemon juice, salt, and pepper. And it's been marinating in that for a couple of hours, and we'll saute that up. Then we're gonna have some sauteed veggies. We're gonna place everything in a pita pot or some naan, have a herbed rice, and then we just threw in some sweet potatoes mixed with oregano in the oven. So while that oil is heating up, because I don't want to put my chicken in until I have a nice hot oil, I'm gonna start prepping my tomato salad. So it's just a fresh, like I like to use cherry tomatoes and feta and a little bit of olive oil and balsamic reduction for this. If I had my basil plant is seriously lacking, so I need to sharpen my knife. It is seriously lacking, so we're letting it breathe. But I would also put fresh basil in there. I find if my knife can't cut through tomatoes well, then it is dull, and I just have to if you've never sharpened a knife, you literally just run your blade along it like this. If you have a knife set, this is called a honing steel, and they come with most of knife sets. So you just have to run it along a couple of times, and then I'm gonna do it the inverse. And this is just to sharpen up my blade, because dull blades are when you get cut. And you don't really need much, but now I should be able to cut through my tomatoes no problem. I noticed I was having a little trouble, and that's when it's dull. If I struggle with an onion or a tomato, I always just gotta sharpen up my knife. And I think it's a daunting task sharpening your own knives at first, but they're actually really easy. And once you get the hand of them, like in doing the motion, it's not as scary. I think the first time you're just afraid, oh, what if I do it wrong? What if I cut myself? But you won't. It's pretty simple. There we go. Here my oil's starting to sizzle. I'm gonna check my oil over here to see if it's hot. I do the water droplet test, essentially. I'm gonna put a drop of water on. If it sizzles, it's ready. So this is not ready. You see how I threw it on and it didn't sizzle? So we're gonna let it heat up some more. One thing when you're cooking up and you wanna put a nice sear on your food, whatever you're cooking, like a meat, or if you're frying something, you wanna make sure your oil's hot enough. If it's not, your food will stick to your skillet and it can get kind of soggy. It'll be like a soggy fry instead of a nice crisp up. And I don't have any bread and I just have marinated chicken, but I still want to have it get brown nicely. So I'm going to chop up the rest of these. And you could also, for this, if you had plum tomatoes would work. I just find that cherry tomatoes, they last a long time in our fridge. And so I can buy them in bulk at Costco and take them out when we need them, especially for like homemade Greek food like tonight. There we go. Perfect. I think that should be enough. And I think we're getting on the sizzle over here, so I'll show you what I'm, see? There we go. You see how it bubbles up? That's when we know that it is ready for frying. So I'm gonna get my tongs out, and I don't want to overcrowd my chicken, so I'm just gonna be frying up a couple pieces of my chicken at a time. If you put too much in there, you'll end up having a lot of water reduced down, and you won't fry up and get a nice browning on it. So we'll do 3 pieces at a time, and I'm gonna give these a quick toss over here. Break them up and let them cook. I feel onions and peppers kind of cook well together at the same time. There's some vegetables that you want to cook first. Most of the time your onion's your first one, but I find peppers you can cook at the same time as our onion. Okay, so we've got our tomatoes, and I'm just going to put a little drizzle of olive oil on them. I'm running out, so luckily I think I have enough. You don't need much. And then a little sprinkle of garlic salt. And I'm going to do just a quick toss. And then we'll sprinkle on some feta cheese. Do another quick kind of toss so you coat all your little tomatoes in it. And then I'm using a balsamic reduction, which will give it a nice acidity to it and a flavor without being too overpowering vinegar. So reduction, this is just balsamic vinegar that has been reduced down, but it adds a nice flavor profile to our tomatoes. And I'm just going to give a nice little drizzle over the top. You don't need too much. There we go. And we'll just let that sit, because that will be our little tomato prep. Get a good stir on here. Perfect. And now we're going to work on our little garlic aioli sauce. When I make this, I like to have like a little sauce to add with on our pitas, and it kind of just brings everything together and it adds a nice little robust flavor to it. So we're going to be using some mayo. Get a scoop of mayo. That'll probably be about 1/3 cup of mayo. A little bit of cream. This will just make it so that it has more of like a dripping base. I'm going to give this a nice Little stir. Beautiful. Don't want any of mine to burn. I want them to get a nice brown sear. Then we're gonna get a little bit of minced garlic. You could use fresh garlic if you want it. I would use a little less of the fresh because it has a stronger. I'm gonna use about a teaspoon of minced garlic. But if you were using the fresh, I would just use 1 clove because it is a lot more flavorful than this pre-minced garlic. And a little bit of garlic salt. And we're gonna give this a little stir. Mix it up. And this is just going to be a nice little garlic aioli that we can drizzle over our little sandwiches that we're gonna make. I hear our chicken sauteing over here nicely, so I'm gonna split this. Nice, look at this nice brown sear on it that we got. And I'm just gonna turn my pan, because I know that this side heats up a little bit faster than the other side. And for those of you who are joining us this earlier today, at lunchtime we started marinating our chicken. So I put about, I used half a cup of cream frosted, which is the same thing as a plain yogurt or sour cream. And then I added in a juice from 1 fresh lemon and the zest of 1 lemon as well. Some garlic salt, some pepper, and some oregano. So here's what the marinade looks in it. And I had it sit in there for about, I would say, 7 hours marinating, just so you have that full flavor in it. Give you this stir. Perfect. But it's really important to, if you're gonna do a chicken breast on this, you know, they always say, oh, you could do a quick marinade in 30 minutes. You can't. You want to really let them sit in their chicken to really absorb the flavors. Otherwise, it won't, you'll just have flavor on the outside and not in the full chicken. Okay, now we need to chop up some fresh parsley. So I'm just going to take a handful out of my bag that I have right here. And I'm going to do a nice mince on it. So when I'm cutting herbs, I like to, my method that I use is I hold right here and I kind of just lift up and down with my other hand. Get some of these long stalks out of there. And then I'll scoop it back up and then I'm going to go the opposite direction. And I'm just chopping it. Force. If you try to do it like this, you're not going to have enough force through it and it won't work well. Bring everything through a pile and I'm going to go back over it again, because I want to have a nice fine mince for this. Scoop it all together. And perfect. Just like this. And I love, you could also use fresh basil as well. My basil plant is needing a little rest time before I start picking at her leaves again. So we're just using parsley. Perfect. We're browning our vegetables here. I love this when they get like a nice little kind of char on them, but without actually burning them. It really brings out the flavors, like the caramelized flavors in the onions and the peppers. And then we have our chicken sauteing over here. It's beautiful. Perfect. I'm going to get a baking tray out. And I'm going to put these on here because we're going to finish them up in the oven, because otherwise they will take a very long time to sear up on their own. So I want to get a little bit more color on that one. I'm going to place my other chicken fillets in here. See how these are looking. If you wanted to completely sear them on and not finish off in the oven, I would recommend butterflying your chicken breast. But I like to finish mine off in the oven because it locks in the juices and keeps them a little bit more tender, because when you are frying at high heat, it lets the juices come out more than when you're cooking at a high heat. So put this on. Get one more going. Beautiful. Got that resting right there. Perfect. Give this a nice toss. And then, now that I've gotten most of them browned up, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic salt. And I'm going to turn my skillet down to low. I don't add my garlic salt until I'm done roasting, because if you add it sooner, it will cause it to burn on your skillet and you can get a little burnt flavor on your food. So I always add it towards the very end, just so it doesn't burn. And a nice little tossing, just enough to give it a little bit of flavor, but not too much. And then I'm going to toss it in real quick. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. Let's see if these guys starting to get a good sear on them. Nice. Good. You can see they're starting to get seared off and cooked. We just want to cook them probably about 30 seconds more. And then we're going to be pairing them with naan. I find this is much better than pita bread. So we're having a Greek dinner and we're using naan, which is Indian flatbread. But I find that it tastes much better than pita bread. Pita bread is very dry. And I feel like naan is actually a lot more tender and moist. So I'll pull out. It's thicker, it doesn't have a big bubble in it, and it's a bit more malleable. I find that pita bread tends to crack and break. So I'm going to get out our naan for tonight's dinner. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 8 should do it. And then my trick for making sure that they get nice and tender is I'm going to wet a paper towel, just damply. I'm going to wrap the paper towel around it, and then I'll pop it in my microwave for 30 seconds. And that moisture will help make them nice and soft, as if you got them from like an Indian restaurant fresh. A nice brown. Okay, so I'm going to get my paper towel. So I'm just going to get a paper towel about this big. And just a little bit damp. You see, I don't have it completely soaked, just a little bit damp. You don't want it soaking because you don't want to have soggy naan. And then I'm just going to make sure I have it damp. And then I'm just going to take my whole bundle right here, and I'm just going to wrap it up like it's in a blanket. And then I'm going to put it on a plate. And all you have to do is microwave it for about 30 seconds. It will heat up all of your naan. And you can do this with tortillas too, if you don't have a tortilla warmer. And it keeps them from really moist. We're going to go pop these in, and we can check on our sweet potatoes and see how they are roasting up. So I'm going to put this in our microwave. I'm going to just pop those in for 30 seconds. And then here are our yummy things. And this is hot, but I'm not a baby for it. I'm just going to touch them. They're getting about tender, so these are almost done, which is excellent, which means our dinner is coming too. So let's check on our chicken, see if they're ready to pop in. Beautiful. Nice. Okay, so I'm now going to put all of my chicken right back in here. And I'm going to pop this whole guy in my oven with my sweet potatoes. Okay. So you can see, well, this is to feed a large army, I will say. We have 7 of us eating tonight, so we have 6 large breasts, and that will feed 7 of us. But I like to sear them off to get the golden brown crust, and then I will pop this in the oven. Just gonna push my sweet potatoes to the side, and pull these guys out just like that. And we'll have them roasting. My naan over here is nice and warm. It's got a nice warm damp blanket on it, which will help keep it moist and tender. Okay, we'll put this here. Turn off got my rice cooking right there. Okay. Now we're gonna get our prep for our herbed rice. So I'm gonna get another bowl. Let me get a big bowl. Get a little bit of softened butter. And we're gonna use some of our fresh parsley. So I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon of softened butter in here, and a little bit of fresh garlic. You don't need too much, just a little bit. I'm gonna do about a half a teaspoon. And I'm gonna put in about a handful of our chopped up parsley and a little bit of garlic salt. And let me get the spoon I was using for the rice. And I'm just gonna smush everything together and mix it up. And then we'll add the rice into it, and the hot rice will melt the butter and really add an extra flavor to it. So we're jazzing up. I like to smush the garlic into the butter because it allows me to mash that garlic up, so you're not just getting one big garlic chunk with in a rice, because sometimes raw garlic can have a bit of a strong flavor, and so I just want to mash it up and make it really infuse into the butter. So this is what's going to melt over our rice and give it a nice herby flavor to it. You could also add in fresh basil if you had at home. That would also pair well with it, or some chives. There we go. So really mashing it up. And there you can see it's kind of made into almost like an herby butter that you would find at a restaurant. This will be perfect for when we toss in our rice. So just give it a good smush. Perfect. Let's check on our rice over here that we've had cooking. Let's see how it is. I'm gonna just take my spoon and feel. Perfect. I'm gonna get a good stir. It's nice, and I'm gonna taste to see if it's tender. Perfect. It is tender. And the thing with rice, if you ever have it stick to the bottom of your pot, it's because you've overcooked it and you've cooked all the liquid out. So you see how I don't really have it sticking very much on. I have a few grains, but that's because if you have your whole bottom on there, you overcooked it. You cooked it too long and it didn't have enough liquid on the bottom, and that's why.
You got a question? Is this a marathon cooking session? Just dinner.
Yeah, it's just about dinner. We're cooking. I try to make my dinner I like to make them in 30 minutes. I think we're almost around 30 minutes, and we're just about to plate. And that's the beauty of it. This is pretty much what it takes me to get my dinners out every night. I'm a strong believer in having like home cooked foods, and not a freezer person. I don't do freezer meals. I don't think my kids have ever had a freezer meal. They've had frozen chicken nuggets. I will say they have had that. But we like to do just fresh food made with real ingredients, and it's cheaper than going out to eat. But let's grab our chicken and our sweet potatoes, and I think we are ready to serve up and plate. So I'll grab my sweet potatoes first, since they'll be hot. You see my chicken in there? It's cooking through. Okay. So I take our sweet potatoes, and I'm gonna take them over here, and then I want to do a quick toss with a spatula and get them off. These were, for those of you who joined us in later, these are sweet potatoes that I tossed with olive oil, oregano, and garlic salt. And I just threw them in the air fryer for about 20 minutes. And they're soft, but they have a little crisp to them. And they're just wonderful. These are my favorite. My kids, my younger two will eat them because they haven't gotten picky about them yet. And my oldest son will. But look, nice. And then whenever I fry anything or bake anything on a pan like this, I put it up in a pile because the heat will just keep it moist. If you leave it out, you could get them to dry out quicker. But if you heat them up, the steam that's coming off keeps them nice and moist and tender. Okay, so we have ours there, and let's go grab that chicken. Might clear a spot for it. And the chicken, we started on, I'm gonna grab another pot holder, but we started on the stove and then we just finished off in the oven. And this was, we marinated it earlier today. This was our chicken breast that we marinated in cream frappuccino, which is the same as sour cream or plain yogurt essentially. Lemon juice from one whole lemon, some lemon zest, oregano, garlic, salt, and pepper. And we let it marinate for about 7 hours. And now it is ready. Okay.
We got a request to see the doggo.
Oh yes.
Where is she?
This one's Bruni. And we have another one who I think he's in the playroom. And she's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who we rescued at about 7 years old. And
this is the dining table I had to make by hand because we have a large family. And it's hard to find a 9-foot, 2-inch dining table.
Okay, let's serve up. Here is how I will make my plate.
You got a question? Where do you find your recipes?
A lot of times I just make them myself. I know flavor profiles together, and so I just I create them in my head. Or if it's something that I've had before, I will then try to look on there. I love True Food, if you've ever been to that restaurant. And a lot of times I'll just search, is there a copycat recipe for this sauce? And then I'll tweak it. So Pinterest is also great for finding ones. So I've got my herby rice right here with some of the fresh fresh parsley. And then we'll do a serving of my oregano roasted sweet potatoes. And then I'm gonna take my chicken right here. And since we're gonna be eating it in a pita, for my kids, I will chop all of them up for them. But I'm gonna just take one right now and chop it up. This is gonna be so tender. And I'm just gonna cut through. Beautiful. And we'll place them nicely. Oh, this is gonna be probably too much. So just a couple slices on there on my pita with a drizzle of my garlic aioli and some arugula. I like the arugula because it adds a nice pepper and lemon zesty to it. And then let's not forget our feta and tomato salad. I love to put it on my pita with it.
Just give me a second.
And then we'll have some as a side for dinner. So this is how I would eat our dinner tonight. And what else? It's I guess my Greek dinner style thing. But thanks for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I tried to show you what we cook each night and all the different meals we make, and just kind of the real food we eat. We also have our long videos on our platform. We have a link in our profile that you can click, which kind of shows you. We download everything from our lives on there well, but it shows you everything that you can look through and look again if you want to cook it yourself. We're working on getting some recipe cards out for you guys. But again, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe.